Okay, so we're going to learn now about le passé composé avec être. Now we've already learned about the passé composé with avoir. Now most verbs are going to use avoir as the helping verb, followed by the past participle to form the passé composé, the past tense. However, there are some verbs that use être as the helping verb, followed by the past participle to form the past tense. So we're going to take a look at a list of those verbs. Now this is the list that you have to know. These are the verbs and only these verbs that take être in the past tense. So there are lots of memory tricks to help you learn this list of verbs. For example, you can call them Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, and that's an acronym for all the verbs on the side here, Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp. And you'll notice there are two P's at the bottom here. The second P is passer par. Now, passer takes être in the past tense if it's followed by par. So a cute little memory trick there. You can say passer par, otherwise avoir. Okay, so take a look at this list of verbs. The acronym is good, but there are also other memory tricks if this doesn't work for you. You can study the maison d'être, the house of être, because a lot of these verbs are things that you would do in a house. For example, you go to the house, you come to the house. Also take a look at revenir, to come back, devenir, to become, or conjugated like venir. So you go to the house, you come to the house, you arrive at the house, you enter into the house, you go up the stairs, you go down the stairs, you're born in the house, you die in the house, you stay in the house. You might fall out the window of the house. You go out the house, you leave the house, and then, oops, you return again back to the beginning. Okay, so that's another good way to remember the verbs that use être as the helping verb in the past tense. There's also a little song that you can sing. Now this is one that I like, and I find myself singing it pretty often if I'm trying to think of a list. So I'll sing it for you right now. It's to the tune of 10 Little Indians. So it goes, Allez, arrivé, venu, revenu, entré, rentré, descendu, devenu, sorti, parti, resté, retourné, monté, tendé, né, et mort. Bravo! So that's another memory trick that can help you. Okay, now the other thing that we have to talk about when we're using the past tense with être as our helping verb is that the past participle agrees with the subject. So here we go. If your subject is singular, masculine, you don't have to do anything to the end of this past participle. However, if your subject is singular, feminine, you add an E to the end of your past participle. If your subject is masculine, plural, you add an S to the end of your past participle. If your subject is feminine, plural, you add an E and an S to the end of the past participle to make it match the subject. Now, this is something that, for example, we know nous is always plural. We know vous is always plural, well, unless it's talking formally to one person. We know ils is always plural. We know il is always masculine, elle is always feminine. However, je depends on the speaker, right? So ladies, if you are a girl and you say je suis allée, I went, you have to add an E to the end of that past participle. So that's just something that you have to think about. The subject is feminine. If you're talking to a person using tu, is that person male or female? Okay. So the subject, well, the past participle endings agree with the subject of the sentence, and so we need to add an E or an S. So that's the verb aller. That's one of the verbs that uses être in the past tense. But this is something that we would do for all of the verbs in the past that use être in the past tense in Passe Compose. So I know that there's a lot of rules here, and it's something that you will get used to with practice, and there are lots of memory tricks and ways to do that.